So maybe can you speak to that? What are some important things to understand about the structure of the Chinese state?
Well, the central leadership politically is extremely powerful and it's very consolidated, but they hold a very crucial key to the local governments, which is that they decide their fate. Am I going to promote them? Am I going to put them in jail? Am I going to fire them? Am I going to reward them? Am I going to punish them?
Have you ever wondered why the Chinese system of governance is so superior and can deliver results that no any other system of governance in the world can deliver? So you are not alone. I also wondered for so many years, and I always scrambled and tried to find information on how exactly does the Chinese run their economy and run their country. And let's listen to this professor, this Chinese economist, explaining how the Chinese meritocracy system drives growth.
They hold that crucial key. And I think what was, very surprising for most of the Western audience is that when I mentioned about the mayor economy, there's like, why don't our American mayors in each city do these very radical things and then push for GDP growth and technology and innovation? It's quite different. I think this is where China is very unique in the world, is that political centralization, economic decentralization, and the yardstick to measure local mayors' competence through, in the first stage, it was GDP growth. So I am a mayor of, the city of Nanjing in Jiangsu province. I'm going to peek at my neighbors' mayors' city's GDP growth, and I'm going to be very, very competitive. By the way, I forgot about that. Competition is extremely competitive among the local government officials because you are competing with other mayor for a top job, right? So you need to do better than them. And whether that was efficient structure or not, I cannot comment, but it certainly just fueled this massive and rapid expansion, economic expansion.
Can we linger a little bit more on this mayor economy? It just seems like such a powerful thing where one mayor looks over to the next and looks even just a trivially simple number like the GDP. Why don't we do that in the United States or in the West more? Just compete on GDP.
Well, you need to be elected and reelected, right? Is that what your electoral base cares about, right? In China, it's what the central government, your boss, cares about. If you ask the consumers, they rather you spend on social spending, right? The things we talked about that stimulates consumption, on education, on healthcare, things that stimulate demand. So
Yeah.
it's a difference of political system.
If you approach this subject after you've been fed information about how negative and how bad China is and how terrible communism is and how bad socialism is, your mind is probably closed off to the idea of actually trying to learn and understand how the Chinese system works. But I think it's one of the most efficient systems in the world. Why do I say so? Because in business, there's actually an owner of the business, somebody who you must report to, and you must deliver results to that person, and you are answerable and accountable to that person. And if you don't deliver, the consequences are obvious. There is no question about it. This is how human beings function. As long as human beings understand and know that there is consequences for them not doing something, they will do what they need to do so that they can avoid those consequences. That is how the economic system or the political system in China is designed, as she is explaining now, that these local government officials and these mayors are supposed to deliver. It's a must. The consequences are dire. It's either you get fired, it's either you don't get any promotion, or actually you can be thrown in jail. That already right there, you already limited corruption, because if you are supposed to deliver, if you take resources and squander them on an expensive penthouse, it's up to you. It limits your ability to actually deliver the results, because if you look at where corruption is so rampant and so serious, then there are no results to be delivered, because those resources, if corruption can actually affect the growth of an economy, it means they are taking those resources for their personal use and then not actually do what they're supposed to do. In this circumstance, you have already seen it's impossible. You cannot do that. There's no option. It's not an option that you don't deliver, because the consequences are dire. Right there, you have already eliminated corruption. But in a democratic system of governance, who answers to who? That is the problem. There is no clear chain of command. There is bureaucracy. Decisions cannot be made very fast. There is no accountability. Who holds who accountable? That is the challenge that all these other systems like democracy, because in Chairman Xi's political system, you are supposed to answer to Chairman Xi. If you don't deliver results, there is consequences for that. But contrary to democracy, in a democracy, who do you answer to? You answer to your voters. This assumption that people can hold politicians accountable, it's absolute nonsense. That is way impossible, and it never happens. That is actually why politicians in a democratic society cannot be held accountable, and nobody can. It is an illusion for the people to actually believe that they can hold politicians accountable. That makes sense on paper, but in reality it doesn't happen. And the assumption that, okay, if you don't deliver what you're supposed to deliver on your mandate for whatever term that you're serving, or 5 years or 10 years, they won't vote you again. And that is absolutely not true. There is just no way where the people, the average person, you and I, can hold politicians accountable. And the fact that we would say we will not vote for them again, that is also based on the assumption that the people, the majority of the voters, are well educated, politically educated enough to understand the inner workings of the government. Because what do they do as politicians? They always lie and manipulate the information that they give to you and make all these giant promises to the people. And also money plays a big role into political campaigning. That's why the one with the biggest funding will end up winning the election, not because he has delivered on the mandate, or not because he is the most qualified, but because he has enough capital to fund a campaign. And also, who controls the narrative and who controls the media. That is nothing to do with their competitiveness or their ability to actually deliver results. But contrary to the Chinese system of meritocracy, only those who can actually deliver and who are qualified are promoted and are given those positions according to their qualification, according to their results, according to them delivering something. You cannot be promoted. That is the best way to do it. That's how companies run. That's how private business run. But in a democracy, the most unqualified is the one who end up landing the position. Why? Because maybe they have funding, maybe they are a charismatic leader who just knows how to capture the imagination of people and sell the dream, but actually not deliver on it. So and also this opens up the window for corruption, for people to be bought, by being given the funding in order to campaign. Then they are supposed to enact policies that favors those people who funded them. Once we get there, it simply means the system has already failed us, because we voted for the person in order for the person to represent us, not the person who funded them. But at the end of the day, they will end up representing that guy, or the business people, or the billionaires and the rich people who funded their campaign. And let's talk about the idea of competition. That is amazing. That is fantastic. I mean, there's no system in the world that can beat that. That is just a picture perfect. That's why there are results that you can clearly tell.